motivation issues because of what's going on outside, right? Outside of their control, their reality, the external
Yeah.
influences. And case in point, we've got this massive pandemic. We're talking about motivation. Motivation is a huge topic. We could probably go on and on about motivation, right? So what we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and we were considering looking at the different scenarios of what people are going through and how their motivation levels are getting affected. We talked about your motivation levels a little bit. We talked about how motivation would affect you and how motivation would affect someone like me. You and I are in very different
Yeah.
situations, right? And then how motivation would affect everyone else on the spectrum, from the person who's rock bottom right now to the person who this pandemic really hasn't affected them at all, and in fact might have enriched them, right? Because not everyone, not everyone is suffering, right? There are certain
Yeah.
people who are benefiting from this pandemic,
Mhm.
and how where do we find the common denominator if people who are riding high on this pandemic are suffering from motivation, and they are, and people who are rock bottom are also suffering from motivation. But then you also have people who are rock bottom and they're still going to the gym. I know people who have lost their jobs, who don't have a family, who don't have anything, who don't have any money, but they're still figuring out a way to go to the $20 a month gym and work out every single day, right? And then you also have the person who is riding high on the pandemic and they're still taking care of themselves. Where's the common denominator, and how do we help people first and foremost realize that if you want to be motivated, don't look for motivation. What should you do?
Yeah. So, motivation, and it's been kind of recent for me. I feel like within the past year that this word motivation, that I've heard multiple people, you being one of them, have said, you can't rely on motivation. Like, what is motivation even? And and it really got me thinking. And something that you've said, something that I've heard other people and the different podcasts that I've listened to, and what I've even studied is that motivation doesn't happen without there being some kind of action first. So I can't expect, and I was saying this to you before, every single morning when my alarm clock goes off, every single morning, the first thought that pops into my mind is go back to bed. I have to create the action to get out of bed. Once I'm out of bed, the second thought that pops into my mind is don't go and work out. I have to then create the action to go and work out. I'm not motivated, especially when I'm waking up and it's pitch black out. I have to create the action for me to see some sort of result. And then I start to feel a motivational factor. Um, but I can't rely on motivation, especially during a time like this, during the pandemic, when, I'm not going to the gym because of how things are. I live alone, so I don't have anyone around me saying, don't eat that or don't go and do this. I am truly on my own in this whole thing. I could very easily, say, I'm not going to do it. Yet, every single day, I put a lot of thought into what kind of action can I create to then, I wouldn't even say make myself motivated, but to see some sort of result from my day that makes me want to do it again the next day.
Right. There's that saying, don't don't be motivated to act to be motivated,
Yeah.
right? And we were talking about this before. You're in a situation, and I hope you don't mind me putting you on blast a little bit like this.
Yeah.
You are single, so
Yeah.
for better or for worse, and depending on who's listening to this, Pam is single. I'm just playing, like, you're playing matchmaker. Yeah. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Don't social distance, bud. Social distance. Pump those brakes. so we got so you're single. You don't have any pets. You don't
Nope.
have no pets that we know of. They might be in the closet. Who knows? So you don't have any. You don't have major responsibilities. You don't have any dependents. You have a stable job, right?
Mhm.
You have, so you could look at your situation as one or two ways, or maybe even both, depending on who you are. You're in a situation where, man, why does Pam need to be motivated anyway? She can just do whatever she wants. She doesn't need to be healthy. She's not really stressed. She doesn't have the same stresses as some other people have, right? She doesn't need to worry about her future as much as other people. Like, why is she complaining about motivation? But then on the other hand, you have the situation where you are in a situation because it's easier for you to just say, I don't really want to do it. I don't have to wake up. Then that you have a battle against motivation, right? You don't, it's not like just because you don't have to do it, you don't want to do it. You want to do it for reasons that extend beyond motivation, right? Motivation could be very superficial, right? It's like, oh, well, if I want to look good or I want to have a six pack, then yes, you're probably going to rely on motivation. You're probably going to
Yeah.
rely on a 6-week challenge or a 12-week challenge or something like that, right? You're probably going to put money down in a jar and tell all your friends that I'm definitely going to get 6-pack abs in 6 months. You have that superficial motivation, but for what? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you wagered a bet. For you, exercise and fitness hold a much deeper value and purpose in your
Yeah.
life, right? For me, I have to be motivated, not because I want to be motivated, but because I have kids,
Yeah.
right? I have kids, I have a wife, I have dependents, I have financial responsibilities to people. So I need to be emotionally and physically present. So for me,
Yeah.
it's a non-negotiable. For you, it is a negotiable, but you decide to make it a non-negotiable,
Mm-hmm.
right? What about, and that's the common denominator, right? We're not motivated for superficial reasons. We're motivated for a deeper reason. Like exercise
Yeah.
and fitness is a means to an end for us,
And different
and
reasons too, we're
and for
motivated
different reasons,
for.
right? It extends beyond, oh, I just want to look good.
Yeah.
It extends beyond that. For you, it's empowerment. It's to know that you're doing the best job that you can to take care of yourself for a rainy day. You're making deposits into your emotional piggy bank, your physical
Mm-hmm.
piggy bank, so that when shit, oh, excuse my language, when poop hits the fan, you're not scrambling. It's like the economy, right? Like if somebody is not in a good financial position because they're not saving for a rainy day, and all of a sudden they get the rug taken out from underneath of them, they're going to be scrambling. It's going to be really difficult. It's going to be more difficult for them to recover. But because you are constantly taking care of yourself, and despite having dips in motivation, you still get the job done. When that rainy day comes, let's say when the crap does hit the fan and you do go through a traumatic event or a tragic event where you're sad and you're grieving, which will happen, it happens to everybody, you're going to be able to handle it more in stride. And in the recovery process, you're going to be able to get back up and bounce back much faster. It's a
Yeah.
long-term gig,
Yeah.
right?
And we were talking about some events that have happened in my life that if I, didn't have fitness or nutrition to turn to, that I don't think that I would have been able to deal with it as well as I did. Nothing. I've never had anything super tragic, happen to my life. I have been so blessed in that way. But there are certain things that have happened. One of the most recent one was, my dad being diagnosed with bladder cancer right when the pandemic happened. So we're talking about, you know, things coming to a head with the job that I was at, um, the pandemic happening, and then my dad is diagnosed with bladder cancer, and I don't have access to a gym. Um, but luckily, so luckily, I did have a lot of gym equipment that I was able to use. And I kind of let that be my motivation in a sense, that I created action because it was like, I can work out. I have the time to work out now, whereas before I was so busy and I still worked out all the time, but it was exhausting because of you know doing it much later at night than I would have liked to because of the way that my schedule was. um and also seeing someone so close to me get sick. It was like, wow, I need to take care of myself. My nutrition needs to be on point, my fitness needs to be on point, and those aren't 100% definites that you know in the future I will never get ill, because we don't know what the future holds for any of us. Anything could happen to anyone. But wow, I'm certainly going to try, and I'm certainly going to throw my emotions and what I'm feeling into fitness and into nutrition, because with those actions, again, you see a result and it's a positive result. So again, it makes me want to do it again the next day. But I know that it's not like that for some people. Some people view fitness as an outlet. Some people don't have fitness in their lives, so they don't know how to use that as an outlet, or they're not they can't create the action to use that as an outlet.
Right. You're using fitness as a buffer to condition yourself for the future, physical, emotional, and mental buffers. Some, like you said, some people don't have those buffers. It's going to be really difficult for them to recover. It's going to be difficult for them to handle the storm. When people come to me and you and they express interest in getting more fit and healthier, regardless of where they are in life, I think it's really important to look at and consider what could be motivating this person. For you, in my opinion, I think the one of the best reasons why anyone should exercise is because as humans we have evolved over millions of years to exercise. It's been a survival mechanism. It's no longer a survival mechanism, which is why many of us can rationalize our way out of exercise. We don't need to do it. There's that hierarchy of needs by Maslow. It's a pyramid that looks at the base and then goes up to the tip in terms of importance and what we actually require to survive and as a human being, as a species. At the bottom level are the basic necessities for survival and sustenance: food, water, shelter, clothing, warmth, security, safety, anything that serves as existential threats to us, right? Fitness is probably somewhere in every single one of those levels. At the top is self-actualization, right? That's that realizing what passion you have and you understanding what your purpose in life is. And then, of course, once you realize your calling, you execute on your calling, and you are completely okay with dying. That is the tip of the pyramid, right? Is personal training my calling? I don't know. Is it your calling? Is teaching your calling? We don't know yet. Like, we're still really young. I mean, we're in our 30s,
Yeah.
right? And we're still learning, we're still evolving. But suffice it to say, fitness we live in the US. As far as we're concerned, our most basic needs, we don't have to worry about them. We take them for granted. Switching
Yeah.
on the lights, turning on the water, getting food, we take all those things for granted. We're at the tip. We're trying to figure out what is our purpose here in life. How do we impact more people? How do we help people? How do we make an impact on our community? And how do I pass on this life without any regrets? Right? There are some
Yeah.
people, yeah, there are some people who are living at the bottom of that pyramid right now, even in the US. And the interesting thing is, though, even though some of those people are in life or death situations, literally, fitness is usually an afterthought for them.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the interesting thing is, this is what I find interesting. 200 years ago, if you were poor, 200, 300 years ago, if you were poor, you were on the farm, you were probably skinny, but also fit and strong. You were
Yeah.
skinny, you were poor, whatever, right? You had no choice but to be physically fit and to toil away in the fields or whatever, right? Or you working on the assembly line. You were strong, but you were, I don't know, you were strong. Like, you were fit, physically strong. But now, because people don't have those skills anymore, right? People who are at that bottom, they were just cogs in this society, in this system,
Yeah.
where they were just going to the grocery store to get their food. They would go to the fast food restaurant to eat. They wouldn't really take care of themselves. They didn't go to the gym. And now, without a job, without a future, without a skill, without an education, now they don't have, and they don't have their health. Their buffer is gone.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks, man, there's almost no point in trying to convince these people because fitness is probably the last thing on their minds. But
Hmm.
But I guarantee you, like, if these people are still trying to live, there is room for them. I mean, they're still looking up from the
Yeah.
bottom of the well. How do we, if we can find the common denominator and motivator for these people, we can strike a lot of motivating factors for everyone.
Yeah. And, I also think something important in that to mention is that, when you have a conversation with someone that would be at rock bottom like that, really just takes fitness and nutrition for, it's just like not on their mind, or they don't know where to begin. It definitely is more of something that's going on in their mind. So it could be something that had happened to them in their past, some way that they're feeling. It could be an emotional thing, it could be a mental thing. So it's kind of, your job and my job to get to the bottom of that, to find out like what is that roadblock for that person. Why, how did they end up where they are? Why are they where they are? And then, not even so much like here, throw them a workout plan, or here, throw them a nutrition plan, but like, let's talk about the things that you enjoy. Let's talk about the things that you would be able to do or would be willing to do. And let's add certain things into your life. And, I feel like we learn that with nutrition. Instead of saying, oh, you can't have that, don't eat that, take away this, take away that, it's, adding things in. Okay, this is what you eat for breakfast. Well, try adding a banana in when you eat breakfast. Or this is what you have for dinner. Oh, well, try adding one more vegetable in when you have that. And it's like a slow progression with that person. I feel like someone that's at rock bottom like that, that's a good approach nutrition wise. Fitness wise, I honestly feel like is a little bit more difficult, because again, you have to really create action there to like get moving. Even if it's for a simple walk, you could tell someone, I want you to walk one time for 25 minutes and tell me how that goes. And it's hard because it's like they have to get up and go and do it. So it's a very difficult place when I feel like you're at rock bottom. And obviously, I don't know what that feels like, but I do think that it's way deeper, as you were saying, it's way deeper than like what meets the eye with that person.
Right. I think that's interesting too. And you know what I also think is really interesting is you deal with, in your primary job, and I think this is why you're so compassionate, you'd be such a great compassionate coach. You deal with people who are in a very vulnerable time in their lives. You deal with children, and you could probably see how your children are changing from year to year.
Yeah.
How we're raised and how we're validated and approached and taught as children will have profound effects on how we view ourselves and what we decide to do as adults. And that is why I think when you look at your own behaviors and you look at behaviors of other people you're trying to help, you would probably look at, well, what did this person go through as a child?
Yeah.
What are the emotional and mental roadblocks these people experience, these children experience when these adults experience when they were children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, it goes so much deeper. We might recommend somebody to go for a 25-minute walk, and for us it rolls off the tongue like I don't know, whatever, right? Really easily. But for somebody else, they have to convince, it's a struggle for them.
Yeah.
It's like a war. It's like, oh, do I go for this walk? I don't really want to go for this walk, yada, yada, yada. Why? Because maybe something like taking care of themselves, taking care of their fitness, or just as something as, man, when I was a child, my parents really never gave a damn about me. They never really gave a damn. They never showed me attention. They didn't care how I looked. They didn't care about what I ate. Why do I start now? So for
Yeah.
us, we give this recommendation, but the recommendation isn't for us to say, oh, well, is this person going to do what I tell them to do or not? That's not our job. Our job is to say, well, what is this person's readiness level? Are they able to execute on a simple suggestion, such as going for a 20-minute walk, right? That is a really simple
Yeah.
suggestion. Or can this person do 10 chair squats while they're watching TV? Can they do something really, really simple? And that is a diagnostic tool for us. It helps us calibrate their motivation levels.
Yeah.
Okay, this person had a really difficult time going for a 25-minute walk. What else can I suggest? What else, where can I meet them now? Where are they? And a lot of times these rock bottom people who may not have an awareness of themselves, probably don't know where they are. They probably don't know how to meet us halfway. And it's our job to uncover those. We first start with the superficial motivators. Okay, you want to look good, you want to be thinner, you want to be lighter, you want to get into different clothes, you want to feel healthier, right? We start with those, and then we start digging a little bit more, because at the end of the day, we're sleuths, we're investigators,
Mm-hmm.
right? And our job is to uncover those hidden motivating factors.
Yeah, definitely. You
So I
did that
think,
with me.
well, you know what? You were
Yeah.
easy. You were easy. You were easy
Mm-hmm.
because you, by the time you had come to me, you had already assumed the most important concept of being fit and healthy. And
Yeah.
that was having the identity of somebody who takes care of themselves. I am a fit person. Even if you didn't see yourself that way, even
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't feel it, you knew deep down inside that you are a fit person
Mm-hmm.
and that the fitness lifestyle is one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal, and that's why it was easy. All we had to do for you was, it was a lot more superficial. All right, Pam, let's try this,
Yeah.
let's try this, let's try this. Let's address your form. Let's fix up your back, let's get you stronger, yada, yada, yada. And then that's just icing on the cake. But there are people, like you mentioned earlier, they don't know what it's like to be fit. They don't know what that's
Yeah.
like. They don't have that identity. They're not even close. They have no relationship with fitness at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, and but you know what's unfortunate is that's kind of the direction that this country is headed, that the society is
Yeah.
headed in, right? They're huge, two huge camps. You have the hyper fit people who are going to the gym, who are taking care of themselves. They got personal trainers, they got coaches. But then you have another group of people who have no idea. They don't know the first thing about getting fit. It's not, it's for no other reason than it's for no other reason that, like, it's they can't motivate themselves.
Yeah.
If
And
they, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, with what's going on right now, the pandemic, and especially when it happened in March, and I was laser focused on getting into super good shape. I couldn't help but notice that I'm not speaking negatively about this, and I'm not shaming anyone that did this. This is just what I simply noticed. I noticed that there were a lot of people and celebrities that were, posting that they were eating whatever they wanted and they were drinking whatever they wanted. And, people coined the phrase quarantine 15. And a lot of people ended up fitting into that category and doing that. And it was like, wow, why aren't we seeing people that are, you know, focused on trying to do the exact opposite? And it kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying, that like our country is moving in this opposite direction because yes, it's totally okay to take a break and to relax. And this time has been so hard on everyone for different reasons. And so again, I'm not saying anything bad about anyone that did that. It's just what I simply noticed was it was more so put out there to eat whatever you want and drink whatever you want and don't work out, as opposed to hey, we are in lockdown and no, we don't have access to a gym, but we can do these things from home and we could still eat healthy and we could still take care of ourselves. So I just found that to be something interesting. And so now you have these people that are at rock bottom, or became rock bottom because of things that happened in the pandemic, these external factors that they could not control. And maybe beforehand they were pretty lost, but now they're even more lost. and then they're going on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and they're seeing people that are, eating whatever they want and drinking whatever they want. And they're kind of validating, oh, okay, it's okay for me to do it too. And I'm not saying that it's not okay. However, I could see that someone who was already lost getting even more lost, or someone that was, really trying to get on track. And then, the pandemic happens. And again, it's an external factor that we cannot control, kind of gets off track. And now they're having a really hard time getting on track, and they don't know how to do it. They don't know where to turn. So that ties back into our whole topic of external factors. Like the quarantine is a huge one. That's an external factor that we did not see coming and we cannot control. And I can see how people hit rock bottom during that time. Not saying that I hit rock bottom, because I didn't, but I mean, there are things that happen during quarantine and things that still happen, day to day for me that are a struggle. Um, but if I wasn't as well conditioned as I am, would that external factor have gotten the best of me? And so I totally see and understand how it did happen for some people, and how things do happen, external factors do happen, and people do, give up, or they, scale back, or whatever it may be.
We're gonna circle back to that. I want to know. I did note. I also noticed influencers and saying like, they're the quarantine 15. They're letting loose. They're living life. Whatever. You can't control the pandemic. Can't go to the gym. Might as well. Whatever. Right. Why do you think they did that?
I think I think honestly they did it for more of like a positive thing, and I think that they did it because they probably knew that there were a lot of people that were struggling, and I think that they wanted to show people, hey, it's okay to not be okay, or hey, it's okay to give yourself a break or indulge, because it is, but through that it did become the norm, that oh, I see this celebrity, doing this, so you know what, I'm going to do it too, or because those would be my thoughts, was, again, super laser focused, tracking my macros every single day, really being on point and very meticulous with what I was doing with my workouts, and made pretty good, like, substantial progress through quarantine. I lost probably like 12 pounds, and for someone that's my size at this point, that's really good. And then I would go on Instagram or Facebook, and it was so hard, honestly, to see people eating and drinking whatever they wanted, because I wanted to. I really did. I really wanted to. But I just, the greater, I knew what it was that I was after. I knew what it was that I was trying to accomplish. I knew what I wanted to do. And again, fitness for me and nutrition for me, it's no longer about exactly how I look. Yes, I want to look good, but I have accepted, and we talked about this in the last episode, I'm never going to be a size 2. I'm never going to be 110 pounds. It's not going to happen for me. To be quite honest, I don't even want it at this point, but fitness for me, nutrition for me, is a certain state of mind. It's a certain feeling that I get. And so that's what I was going for, is I hadn't felt that way because of things that were going on in my life, external factors, stresses that were going on. And now I had this opportunity to really get it together. And I wanted to feel fit. I wanted to feel like I was healthy. But again, the external factor part was difficult. And so I could see how it can be extremely difficult for some people. And I say that because, I'm at one level right now, but I'm also on chapter 50, so someone can't look at me and say I could never, I can't do it like you do, or I could never, same with you. You're on chapter 105 and I'm on chapter 50, but it's like I can't compare your success to mine, and that's why someone that's on chapter 1 can't compare where they are to me or you.
Don't worry, Pam. You're like a speed reader. You'll be in chapter 120 before I get to chapter 106. You,
I do read
you,
really fast.
you, you have to. You mentioned something earlier. You mentioned when you use, and I want to go back to this because I think it just irks me that people who, and I've always had these feelings. I'm not an influencer. Maybe people will call me a hater. Maybe people will say, "Oh, well, you're just jealous that you don't have a million followers. You're not making money from social media." I don't think
That's
that's it.
probably what it is.
I don't think that's it. I think it's it definitely. I'm such a jealous person. I'm like, man, I wish I could look like Pam. Let me go get some surgery done to myself.
Mm,
I'm just like, you're like that's we're gonna be called the Twinkie Show, right? Because
yeah.
you're the white one. You're the essence. You're the core of this show, and I'm just the shell. I'm just the yellow shell. Whatever. Go past me, and you see what it's really all about. It's Pam, beautiful soul here. It just irks me that when you mention you would work out, you would really bust your butt in the gym, try to take care of yourself, and you have these influencers who, for the most part, don't really have much to worry about, right? Eating whatever they want, trying to give people permission to eat whatever they want, and things like that, taking the liberty. And yet you are like, oh man, I want to live like that. I want to eat like that, but I know that's not my gig. I know that's not what I should be doing. It just irks me because these people have so much reach, right? And like you said, they should be trying to encourage people to not fall victim to the quarantine 15
Mhm.
because they could do that as well. They have the liberty and the freedom to make healthy decisions and make more of a positive impact. I know what I understand probably you. I'm sure a lot of these influencers are coming from a good place. They're like, look, people are having a really tough time right now. Many of us know food is comfort for us. We get an emotional escape from food. So yes, let loose a little bit, eat whatever you want. But that's assuming that most people aren't already doing that.
Yeah.
That's assuming that is assuming that somebody is like you, strict, have you generally have you have your freedoms, right? You can go out and things like that, right? Part of the benefit of working out and taking care of yourself is that you probably don't feel as guilty when you do go out and you drink some alcohol or eat a pizza or whatever, right? Like it's not gonna really do much for you because
Yeah.
you take such good care of yourself. These influencers are probably coming from the place that, like, well, most of the people are probably already too hard on themselves. Let's give them a nice, compassionate, empathetic message to let loose a little bit. But most Americans are already doing that. Most Americans are not watching what they eat. They're not exercising. They're not taking care of themselves. And then what I see is when these influencers come out with these messages, it becomes more fatalistic, nihilistic, and pessimistic. Be like, hey, the pandemic sucks. You're probably already in a shitty position. Let's make it worse by piling on extra weight. And so you can eat like crap. Whereas I'm here, let's say, for example, I'm a fit white woman who can eat whatever she wants because I have a fantastic figure. My future is pretty much secure. I don't like this word, but I'm going to use it right now. I have the privilege to do so. Not everyone's going to have the privilege to do it, right? And
Mhm.
like you said, they would have had a much better impact if they would have spun it into more of a positive rather than encouraging people to not take care of themselves. Encourage people to take care of themselves because they need to build that buffer.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And there were people that that are largely, they're very popular, that were doing the opposite. So there were some, but it was more popular that it was the latter of the two.
Mhm.
And I feel like you had to kind of go looking for people that were in more so in like the fitness and nutrition movement. I mean, quarantine was when I found Jordan Saya, and I talk about him all the time. I
Mhm.
mention him to you all the time. I mention him to my friends all the time because I just agree with everything that he says, and I just think that he. I mean, I had no idea that he existed before quarantine, and I found him, and I found his podcast, and I religiously follow every single thing that that man says because I just think that he says it in such a simple way, and fitness and nutrition is just he just makes it in it says things in such a way that just makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. Um, And, but there are people like him that are slowly making a real impact on the world. And I feel like that's why we're doing what we're doing right now, is because even if only 5 or 10 people or 15 people listen to this right now, you keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep putting the message out there. You keep spreading your knowledge about fitness, about nutrition, especially you know so much. It will start to reach people. It's like a slow trickle domino effect, but it takes time.
Bro, like I don't know if I know as much as you think I do. My chapter, the reason I'm at chapter 105 is because all my pages are quadruple spaced. Like, all my chapters are quadruple spaced, and each chapter is like one page.
uh, that's a lie.
My book is like one of those my book is like one of those pamphlets.
Uh,
You get my book is like one of those pamphlets you get from the fire station when you go. Be like, oh, can I have a fireman's hat? They give you a plastic fireman's hat. They also give you a little book, a coloring book. That's what I feel like
you
mine's like.
underestimate yourself so much. I mean, it's
You know what?
crazy.
I think until it's kind of like you and I both, we have our insecurities. We want to help people, but like you said, there are forces outside of our control that are making it difficult, right?
Hmm.
And we're starting to realize more and more, and we're going to get back onto the topic of motivation because that's really the bulk of this conversation. It's like it's we have to understand what people are going through before we start making that meaningful change,
Hmm.
right? Because
Yes.
on one the best way to change somebody's behaviors is to get them to behave in that way. If somebody wants to be fit, they need to start taking the actions that will help them be more fit, right? But we have to ask that question. We have to ask this question to them. What are you going through right now? What
Yeah.
are things that will completely derail you? Right? If you just got laid off from your job, you're going through a move, you're going through a divorce, you're grieving from a loss, a family member is sick, you just went through a tough breakup. These are all really tough life situations that will test somebody's mettle. If you have somebody who has worked in a secure job, everything is smooth, they come to the gym because they want to lose a few extra pounds, they don't have really anything going on. Okay, cool. Sign up for personal training, 12-week program. We're going to help you lose 10 pounds. Boom. No problem. Right. But then we have to really be compassionate, right? Compassionate coaching, and try to understand what somebody's going through, because that is what's really going to screw up their motivation. That's what's going to screw up their ability to act, because they're being pulled from so many different
Yeah.
directions, right? And in that vein, how can we fight back against those external influences? We've already talked about them. We've talked about you have to act, right?
Yeah.
You have to make that commitment to change. You have to make that commitment to act. You might not need to give yourself a massive pep talk. You might not need to go journal for a year before you decide to take that first step. But whatever you do, you have to act. And the quicker, the better, right? The actions and the behaviors don't have to be perfect, right? If you see a mountain off in the distance, you don't need to take one specific path to get to that mountain,
Yeah.
right? That mountain is huge, right? You can take many different paths, but you need to take that first step. And like you
Yeah.
said, build up the momentum, because once you take that first step, the law of inertia will state like a moving object is harder to stop than an
Yeah.
object that's at a standstill, right?
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
So what are some other things that people can do? Okay, I'm sorry. We talked about acting. We
Yeah.
talked about how when you first came to me, you had already assumed an identity of a fit
Yeah.
person. How did you get to that identity? Because you weren't always into fitness,
No.
right? We talked about the first episode. In college, you let yourself go a lot.
Yeah.
And even during college, you were at your most confident. There was really, you were a mental health, from a mental and emotional standpoint, you didn't really need to work out. You kind of got roped into it, right?
Hmm.
And depending on how things went, you could have probably been better off never having worked out, right? Because you were at your highest in terms of self-confidence.
Hmm.
But now you're at a better place now than you
Yeah.
were after college. You're stronger, you're lighter, you look fantastic, you have more self-confidence. How did you get to that point when your journey to now was so rocky and bumpy?
How did I like start off at the bottom?
Yeah, how did you get from I'm the heaviest I've ever been, but I'm also the most self-confident. So I didn't really need to work out, but I did it anyway. And you went through a lot of different fad diets, you went through different workout plans, you had your ups and downs. For all you know, all things considered, your journey to being the fit current you was more difficult than if you had done nothing at all.
Yeah.
So why did you decide that you wanted to have the identity of a fit person when you really didn't need to?
Um, again, like growing up, people would make comments, and again, the comments stick with you. Nothing that's was so horrible, but the comments stick with you. Um, I think what it was for me was that like in college and stuff like that, of course, you're around athletes and other things like that. I would see people that were really, really fit, and I did want to be like that. So I would kind of have it in the back of my mind, like, oh, like I would really like to be really strong, but like I didn't know where to begin. But again, like I was confident too. So it wasn't like I was saying to myself, oh, I want to lose weight. Oh, I want to eat better. I was saying to myself, oh, I want to be really strong, you know? And then it was stepping on the scale, then seeing my weight and being like, oh, okay. So it's not just about being strong. It's about, I also have to lose weight. Um, but I think like what it really started for me was like seeing other people, seeing how strong they were or the workouts that they were doing, and I wanted to do that too. I didn't know how. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what to do at all. I just knew that someday, somehow, I wanted to get there. And it wasn't until I went to that small group training gym that I was at. Once again, shout out to those guys. That I was like, yes, this is what I've been wanting to do. With the deadlift and the back squat and the front squat and the bench press and the overhead press with the barbell. That's when I was like, yes, this is exactly what I've been wanting to do. And that threw me for a loop, but I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, and it brought up another question, right? That's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
What you and I have spoken about this trap. It could be either a trap or it could be a lift of comparing yourself to other people, getting your motivation
Yeah.
from other people, right? Because other people are external motivators, external factors.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at these influencers on social media. Oh my gosh, she looks so fantastic. She's got these workouts on Instagram, and I want to follow these workouts. And if I do it, my legs and my butt, my abs will look like hers, right? And they do it, and most people don't. I mean, most people don't end up looking like these influencers, not because they're not working hard enough, but because genetically they might not be built like that. Like you
Yeah.
said, you're never like you said, you're most likely not ever going to be 110 pounds because you're not built that way. In
Yeah.
order to get to 110 pounds, you would have to be unhealthily restrictive.
In fifth grade again.
Yes, you would have to. You
In fifth grade again, pretty much.
pre-pubertal. You don't. Yeah, you don't have the goods. None of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone is different. That's a double-edged sword. How were you able to take that double-edged sword and turn it to your benefit? How were you able to look at other people and say, I want to be like that? And instead of falling into the trap of, oh, I wanted to be like that, but I didn't end up like that. So now I feel even crappier. How were you able to get it to where, oh, I wanted to be like that? And oh, I started working out and now I feel great. And I'm starting to get closer to that person. I may not be there yet. I may never ever be there, but I still feel good about what I'm doing. How
Yeah.
did you get to that point?
I mean, honestly, that didn't even happen until recently, because you know that when I was going to that, I would send you pictures of, influencers on Instagram that were super fit, and I would say, oh, I want to look like that, or I think my body kind of resembles that, because they were a little bit thicker and a little bit curvier, and you would you would come back at me and say, her legs are like 2 inches longer than yours and a little bit thinner, and like she's taller than you. And so if you want to look like that, then for the next 6 months, I want you to not ever go out to eat, and you have to have 100% consistency. And it was like, and I would get so annoyed at you for saying it, but I see what you were doing. You're also kind of using like reverse psychology on me. Oh, okay, you want to look like that, then this is what you have to do to look like that. But you always preach sustainability to me. Is what you're doing something that you could do for the rest of your life? So I don't think that I got to that point where I no longer look at people and wish to look like them. I don't think that that happened to me until probably like towards the end of us working together, like a year ago, maybe, the spring. And I can't even say that I no longer ever feel like that, because nothing's ever 100%. So like I still have my days, weeks, months, even. I mean, you were with me for an entire period where I was depressed, and then I came out of it amazing, and I lost weight, and I looked really, really great, and then I was stressed, and I was sluggish, and I felt horrible about the way that I looked and about myself. To then again feeling really, really good about myself. So it's like I go through phases just like anyone else. But I really have stopped comparing myself, I would say, like within the past year. I would say that I no longer look at someone else and say, how can I look at it like that? I will look at them and I will say, good for that person. They look amazing. They probably put in a lot of hard work. It's probably also genetics, because I know that I put in a lot of hard work too, and I'm still a work in progress. I'm always going to be a work in progress. But it took years and years and years and years and years of feeling the opposite way and comparing myself to other people, wanting to be able to do a certain thing or look a certain way or lift a certain amount of weight or be a certain size or be a certain number on the scale, to know that those things don't validate me as a person, and to know that I am my own person, and I should be the one that I look up to, and I should be the one that I'm trying to make better.
Mm-hmm. You're validated by your ability to take care of yourself and put in the best possible work that you can.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good approach to it, right? Because even when your world is crumbling around you, at the end of the day, the number one thing that you have control over is yourself, right? The number one thing, and not total control, right? Because we're still human beings, and we have 3 brain levels. We have the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is responsible for all of our primordial emotions like anger and things like that. We still succumb to those every once in a while. But I think by what you're talking about, trying to assume a different identity, trying to relate to a specific lifestyle, and being humble enough to understand our own actions are really what will help identify us ourselves instead of somebody else or an external influence. We can have as much control as possible over our own lives.
Yeah.
Even when everything else is falling apart around us, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I think that is really the big common denominator underneath everything all. Like, in your efforts validate you as a human being, right?
Yeah.
And how high you go on that pyramid, that hierarchy of needs, will be determined by not only the level of work, but the type of work, right? Because it's not just about working hard; it's about working smart. It's about, you see the mountain off in the distance, but you also at the same time want to continuously analyze to see what is the safest route and what route will help me get there the quickest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not like, oh, I'm going to get to the mountain no matter no matter what or whatever, right? It's about, as a human being, as a human being, as an organism that's motivated by goals all the time, for the most part, and we still want to get to that mountain in an efficient, safe manner.
Yeah.
Yep.
My computer is gonna die.
All right. Well, we have to wrap up anyway. We're over an hour. What did you think? You thought this conversation was pretty good? We're still recording, so we can probably talk about, what did you think about this conversation? Was it good? Do you think we touched on everything?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely do. Really. I'm excited to listen to it.
Yes, me too. Me too. I think I talked a little bit too much, but sometimes the manufacturer of Twinkies will put a little bit more yellow into it. Sometimes they'll put a little bit more cream into it.
It's, you like to talk, and so do I. So.
We both like to talk. We're like waves just crashing on the coast.
Yeah.
But anyways, yes, I think we hit a lot of things. These are motivation topics. I mean, these are questions about motivations. We're addressing motivation that we would be addressing even if there wasn't a pandemic. Even if
Yeah.
there wasn't a pandemic, there would still be people struggling to make progress towards their health and fitness goals.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic just exposed things a lot more.
Definitely. I agree.
But Pam, we are here to be compassionate coaches for people who not only need somebody to instruct them on what to do, but also somebody to listen to their struggles,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's a tango. It's a delicate dance where you can't just force the steps. You need to finesse it. And I think part of that finessing comes from being aware and mindful of your own struggles, the things that hold you back, and your individuality, right? Your uniqueness, and how a coach can help tailor the approach to you as a human being, not simply to you as a client or an
Yeah.
athlete. All right. Well, that is it. This is we are here with David of Strong by Lee and
Power by Pam or Empowered
Power.
by Pam. Still haven't decided.
Yeah, we still haven't decided. Maybe once, if people listen to this, they can give us ideas. You said you
Yeah.
have friends who are great at brainstorming.
Let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, well, the only thing I do is create a storm. I don't really have any brains. But anyways, all right, we're gonna sign off now, okay?
Okay.
All right, everybody. Till next time, be strong, be empowered.
Bye.